Welcome to the Purpose Chasers podcast, where adversity meets ambition and setbacks become setups for something greater. I'm your host, Mark Crandall. After walking away from a $5.1 million construction sale, enduring loss, betrayal, a season of darkness, and a pile of financial devastation, I came back to the one thing I can't shake, helping people live on purpose. This podcast isn't about chasing dollars, it's about chasing calling. Every week, we shine light on creators, entrepreneurs, and artists who refuse to quit. People who kept moving forward when life told them to sit down. If you've ever been knocked down, counted out, or told no, you're in the right place. Because here, we turn pain into power and purpose into impact. Let's dive into this week's episode. Sean, thank you so much for taking the time to come back on the Purpose Chasers. It's been years, and for those of you listening, it's been almost 6 years, and as I was mentally clawing at attempting to get back to what I've been called to do, I sent Sean a DM and said, hey man, I know it's been forever. Can you get on a call with me? And he gets that stuff a lot. But Sean knows enough about me to know that I wasn't going to jump on a call and pitch him something. And I just went in with him and told him where I was at and how, you watched me get called to something, step up in power, it become obnoxiously larger than anything I could have imagined, and then see the flash of money and security leave construction. And now you, my friend, are the first guest of the Purpose Chasers podcast after interviewing Hal, dropping my story episode, which was the last episode, which was crazy. 127. I just recorded my story lead-in episode, which is on the back of the conversation that I had with you. Sean, you're one of the most influential people that I know online in the sense of you give back with such abundance and lack of scarcity. It's really, really hard to ignore you. And when I jumped back in to podcasting, it had to probably have been the first time my phone heard me say, go record a podcast. The next person I saw was Sean Douglas on my feed talking about how to get booked to speak. Sean, so grateful for your time. Thank you for coming back on. And sorry for the technical glitches.
No, you're right. You rock, brother. Always happy to have you on a call. And, we've known each other for many years. And I flew to Austin years ago and flew to all kinds of different places. And we've met up a handful of times. So, you've been one of the most consistent people in my life. Facebook friends and are just that. They're Facebook friends. They're online people that you kind of converse with and stuff. But to meet offline, I think it takes it to a higher level, and that's the way that we operate, man. So
I want to dive into the meat and potatoes of how you got to where you are, so that my audience who haven't listened or haven't followed your path have a real understanding of how you got to where you are. Sean, can you share with me the turning point that moved you from a full-time U.S. Air Force officer to a full-time entrepreneur? Because I know you had a very successful career in the military. That was not going down. I can tell you that. In which he left to run the Success Corps. Can you talk about the transition for you?
Yeah, I was a Air Force non-commissioned officer and was very much in the thralls of my career. And they said, we want you to go to Korea. And I was busy speaking and doing all kinds of things with podcasting and attending PodFest and Podcast Movement and Indie PodCon, Indie Pods United, and a lot of these different podcast events and speaking events. And I was just really busy. And they're like, we're going to send you to Korea for a year. I'm like, oh, no. And this is literally my retirement year. There's no way. So I jumped through the regulations. I jumped through the regs, found out some information, kind of like what my options were, and I withdrew the assignment, which means I basically said no to the military, and they were like, well, then we're going to kick you out. And I said, well, I'm in my retirement year anyway, so I just pushed the button and retired. And the turning point was the positioning. I was always speaking because of the military, and so I still use that as kind of my background. But the positioning and using category design to say, hey, event planner, what problem can I solve for you? And ultimately, the event planner doesn't want a speaker that sucks, doesn't want a speaker that's boring. They want something dynamic, high energy, interactive, engaging. They want a really phenomenal experience. So why don't we give that to them? And so what I created was a conversational keynote experience that is never death by PowerPoint. It is always interactive, engaging, high energy, and we always have a ton of fun. And
So
ever
is this
since
what you had? Let me just beep. Is this what you had going in the midst of your retirement year? So you had this going and booming as you made this decision to push the button and retire early, and you just
Yes.
said, "No, I fully believe in this. I've seen the success of the work that
Yes.
I've done. I know that the money that I'm losing out on in my probably really nice pension, it's going to be met with this purpose." All right, I just wanted to get an understanding.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I retired with a full pension. I retired with 80% disability. And I went to, I actually went to school for my CDL as a backup. I'm like, let me have a backup just in case this like epically fails. So
I had no clue.
So yeah, like I went to CDL, I worked part-time for ABF. So I was actually truck driving in 2021 into 2022. I was truck driving and I was still doing like leadership trainings and all the other things that I was doing. And then ABF said, hey, we kind of want to hire you as a supervisor, as a manager. And we love the leadership. We love the seminars. We love, what you're about and your core values. Like, we'd like to hire you full time. I was like, oh. So in 2022, I said, okay, let me put my podcast and things kind of like on a back burner a little bit. I still recorded some, but let me take it back. Let me see where this goes. Right. I lasted maybe a year and I quit and I went back to full-time speaking. I moved away. I was like, I'm done. Like, this is what I want to do. And ever since, I've fully focused on the conversational keynote experience, the speaking, the positioning, getting people booked to speak, and basically sitting down and rewriting my entire process of how I do everything. I rewrote my entire website. I basically stripped down pre-pandemic me and the business and rewrote it. And it was overdue anyways. Like, I needed a refresh. I needed a rebrand, but I really looked at everything and basically rebuilt everything in 2023. And 2024 was the year that I moved and rebuilt every single thing that I had. And here we are in 2025 and the business is thriving.
I mean, it's thriving to the point that it's made. I mean, it caught my attention. I did eliminate a lot of quote friendships. Probably a stupid decision on my part, is now I'm looking to network with podcasters and do podcast swapping and all the things that you've taught me and preached about for years.
Right.
Right. But I hit this really lonely place after exiting the construction, the construction industry, which I talked to you about.
Mm-hmm.
And you did something on the phone call with me, which intrigued me and blew my mind. And you actually said something, and I was like, Mark, I don't know what you're selling. Like, I literally, like, you're talking about the solution. I don't know what the problem is. And I'm like, oh my God, like, thank you, Sean. All these people that I've talked to that are, quote, close in circle with me, that have known me for years, not one of them can say, hey, dumb marketer, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, you're so smart, Mark, that you've like, and it was that,
Right.
that like, it really made me rethink everything that I was doing. And it also made me rethink everything that Neff is doing, an artist that I manage, a producer.
Yeah.
And then it made me rethink a lot of things. So if you're listening to this, Neff, maybe you can clip this in here in the beginning. If you're listening to this, Sean is not just a speaker trainer. He is not. Sean is a master at speaking calls to action. He is a master at opening and closing loops in talk, which is an absolute psychology strategy for getting people to do what you want them to do at the end of your talk,
Yep.
in a non-sleazy way. And one of the things that I learned in this travel of music before coming back to business here, of playing in music and realizing my marketing is not best spent in music. I need to get back to using my brain on business. One of the things that I learned is there are no calls to action rarely in music. Like these struggling artists, like I just watched a really, really killer band this weekend. If you're listening to this, take heed to what Sean's about to say as I softball him into his speaker training material. There was no call to action to follow us here. There was no, hey, there's a QR code up here, a free sticker if you do this or that or this or that. And I know you've built an entire psychological system around it, which you've rebranded like very, very nicely. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that from a sense of like I'm getting something for selling you. I'm just saying that the way that your system works, it was able to get me, a very overcomplicated, think I've done a lot in business brain, back down to the simplicity of wait, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now that I have that out of the way, Sean, one of the things that you work on and you worked on with me in our phone call is the reframing of my anxiety, the fear, the depression that I had worked out of after I exited the construction industry. And I know that it's one of the key aspects of your teacher training and what you teach the professionals that come to you is you cannot offer what you don't have. So, Sean, I want to ask you this question before we get into the training that you actually do and how you can get like how people can use your tangible tactics to get themselves booked and or hire you to get them booked, because based off of my phone call it sounds like you have some crazy really close connections with some epic event planners that are really looking to only work with people that are in network with you. That blew me away.
Yeah.
I must say that part of our phone call, Sean, blew me away. Sean,
Yeah.
can you share with me how you stay mentally fit, how you yourself stay in a place of absolute leadership, of absolute training to get to take a position with a company to them asking you to take a supervisor position and implementing your strategies?
Yeah. So I will say that I battle every day. And to stay mentally fit, there's a lot of resilience skills that I pull onto. And I'll get into these moments where, a couple no's will come across an email. And I'm like, dang it. And I'll start getting down. But like that's part of my process. It's not shying away from that moment of no, but actually leaning into the discomfort and leaning into the way that makes me feel. I'm emotionally removed from a lot of the situations as far as like, man, I really wanted that one. Like that would have been a really cool event. And then I move on. I accept what has happened. I acknowledge that it wasn't a fit for them, but I still, in my response back to them, talk about building relationships. I'd love to build a relationship with you. I'd love to be a resource for you. If there's any way that I can support you, whatever. And almost 99% of the time, the email I get back is thank you so much. We'll keep your information on file, which means whatever. But it's what comes after that. And they say, thank you so much for opening up the opportunity to network, open up the opportunity to build a relationship, because essentially that's telling them that I'm not in it for the bank account. I'm in it for the relationship, and relationships build bank accounts. So I'm not here to build the money. I'm building the relationship, because money is a byproduct of the relationship. Money is the byproduct of the networking. And so we always hear about you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most and all that stuff, right? Cool. Got it. Okay. I'm the average. But if my 5 people that I hang around the most are leeching off of or are bad business people, like I don't want to be in that crowd. If my friends and the 5 people I hang around the most are amazing business owners but are not great dads or parents, like I don't want to be in that crowd, So I've had to really kind of figure out who my 5 people are that I want to emulate the most, and then just do what they do, because success leaves clues. And when you emulate your core values, and when you emulate the people that are, and behind the scenes that they're absolutely doing well, their family's doing well, the business is doing well, like everything's like, okay, what's going on? Like you have everything under control. And what you'll quickly find out is, no, they don't. They're putting out 8 out of 10 fires a day. They're juggling 13 balls and dropping 2, And so how do they stay above the noise? How do they rise above everything? It's because it's the discomfort that brings them to where they want to be. Every time I get a no, every time something doesn't work out for me, I don't go, oh well, see you later, and just disregard it. I lean into that. I'm like, dang. And I feel that. And I feel that discomfort, and I feel that moment of rejection. I'm like, how can I be better? Like, how can it just gives me the motivation and desire to do better, to learn something more. Okay, what could I have done differently? Because every failure is a learning opportunity for you to rise 1% more than you were yesterday. If I did everything perfect yesterday, awesome. What can I do 1% better today to be even more perfect? And so my advice to everybody, learn gratitude. Absolutely learn gratitude and learn acceptance, but to acknowledge the failure and lean into that and learn from the failure, and not only from the successes. Success leaves clues, but failure is the only thing in life that will give you the test first and the lesson second.
And to recap, this is the greatest answer to how do you stay mentally fit on a daily basis that I've ever gotten. And
Thanks.
The summary of the answer that you just gave is you stay mentally fit by going into every business transaction with the motive of building relationship. That if you go into business transactions with the motive of building money and wealth, you're going to create resentments and you're going to create a lot of turnover in business.
Yep.
And you just talked through how you go through your daily practice, like your daily business transactions with the motives of building relationships, and it keeps you free of resentment.
Yeah. 100%.
Moving on. Thank you for that one, Sean. I needed that. I'm going to clip that for myself. That was gold, man.
Just think about money being the byproduct of the value that you deliver, right? If you build a healthy relationship with your spouse, then everything that comes out of that relationship would be healthy. But if you build a negative relationship, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of yelling and screaming, and those negative feelings will be at the forefront. And so if you build a healthy relationship with your kids, with your spouse, with a significant other, with your family, with even a business transaction, can be a healthy relationship. And the positives that come out of that healthy relationship is what you want more of, right? And so that's all it is. Money is the byproduct of the relationships that you built. Money is the byproduct of the value that you deliver. Everybody's chasing money, but are you chasing the result? Are you chasing down the problem that you're solving? Because the other people who are going to pay you, they're definitely chasing down the problem. They're trying to figure out how to solve their problem. And if you are there just to sell something, to solve their problem. And I hate when people with like salespeople are like, well, selling is solving, or selling is, and then insert any line that is NLP, that is BS. And you'll find out that 3 years ago or 5 years from now or whatever, most of those people are either not in business, they have a job, their Better Business Bureau rankings are like 0, they're like really bad, and they found out that they're like scammers, So just think about it that way.
Tactical. We're going to get into it. Sean, who holds more as seen-ons than a sham wow. I'm not kidding. I've never said that before. That was good.
That was
You
good.
did though,
I
man.
like that. I'm at to use that. That's
Yeah.
good.
So Sean has media appearances on most large publications, and he has worked his booty off to do so.
Yeah.
Sean, since last talking to you, you now have clients who have large media appearances
Yes.
on large publications. So you have your list of appeared ons, and now you have a list of clients who have their list of appeared
Yes.
ons since I last talked to you.
Yep.
Yeah, getting paid to be a speaker is something that I thought was foreign back when I first launched Purpose Chasers in 2017. And I wrote my first book right around the time that I met you.
I remember that.
And it was through meeting you that I did get to earning paid talks.
There you go.
And I found out you had to give a paid talk to actually get paid to talk. Like, right. You couldn't just go up somewhere, say what you wanted from a microphone and hope somebody was going to cut you a check.
Right.
And so you've helped me since our call last week. I've really reflected on this. You've helped me more than I could ever pay homage on this
Good.
podcast.
Happy to hear that.
And one of the things that I've learned from you is consistency pays the bills. It's like, yeah, you did it yesterday, it didn't work, but did you do it? Are you going to do it tomorrow? Are you going to do it Friday? Are you going to do it Saturday? Are you going to do it Sunday? And these yeses will start to pile up. Sean, if we get into tactical application here, I want to use Produced by Neff as the example, right? Because people would say, oh, Produced by Neff is not a paid speaker. He's DJ Premier's lead engineer and he's this, that, and the other, and da-da-da-da, and he should... But Neff has an amazing story. A story of being a Maine boy, raised boy who was going to stay in New England towns forever, who left there to go to New York to follow his quest of being one of the top, producers, engineers in hip hop, and he made it. And so, like, when I say, like, I'm gonna work to get Jonas paid talks and to get Jonas booked on podcasts, and Jonas is like, I don't even know how that's gonna work. Can we get into tactical, like the meat and potatoes of how you would apply pressure and or strategy around getting Produced by Neff? And I think this is a further conversation because I was thinking about it as I was getting on with you this morning, and I'm like, man, I don't want to go getting myself booked on places and doing all that crap anymore. After talking to you, I'm like, I might as well just get in your world. So can you talk me through the strategies of Neff going from not speaking to building a lucrative speaking career?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be easy on two ways, and another one would be a little bit more difficult. So the first thing you have to do is figure out what he's known for and then position him as that. And so you use a discipline called category design. And most people don't know what that is. Category design is where you create and dominate your own market category. You don't play in somebody else. So what a category designer is not is a category player or a category victim. A category player is someone who plays in an existing category. So if I was going to create another Target, a Walmart, a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Wendy's, like if I was going to go into that, I'm a category player. A category victim is someone who gets bought out of their category. So think about how many places, like when I grew up, we had Mervyn's. Sears is gone. Think about all of the places that are no longer in existence. Restaurants that have closed. COVID knocked out all of the category victims. They were barely holding on pre-pandemic. Pandemic wiped them all out. And now everybody that's left are either the category king or the category players. And so the easiest route to building what you want to call a lucrative speaking career would be to create and dominate your own market category. And that's exactly what I did whenever I was talking to event planners and said, I'm most known as a category, as a conversational keynote experience. And so they're like, wow, like, what is that? That's the exact question I want. Wow, that's cool. Like, what is that? This is what it is. And so I'm not just a leadership speaker. I'm definitely not a motivational speaker. So a category player calls himself a motivational speaker. A category designer calls himself a master life strategist. That's what Tony Robbins calls himself. He's been calling himself that for 5 years now. He rebranded out of the top motivational speaker and has become a master life strategist. What I call myself is a business positioning strategist or a master resilience speaker. And then when they want to talk about leadership, I say I've lived, worked, and led teams all around the world in my 20-year military career, and I'm a certified John Maxwell leadership speaker. With all of that, they're like, that sounds fantastic, because I've already told them my qualifications and then told them that I'm very different. You can tell them that you're different just by naming the category. And so part of category design is framing, naming, and claiming the problem that you solve. Frame it in the way that you solve the problem, not the solution. So market the problem, not the solution. People buy their way out of problems. They don't buy themselves into solutions. They're not buying a book at the local bookstore. They're not going to Barnes and Noble, and they're not just grabbing something off the shelf. They're not going to Walmart to just grab something off the shelf. Okay. So be CVS. Don't be Walmart. You go into CVS for a very specific problem for a very specific reason. Be CVS. Don't be Walmart. When you are known as that, or people call it niche or niche down, when you're known as the category king of whatever design category that you created, now you've got to frame the problem in a way that exacerbates what people are already feeling. And then once you've done that, you claim it and you name it by saying a conversational keynote experience. People are like, what is that? It's a new category of speaker. It is not death by PowerPoint. It is always interactive and engaging, dynamic, and high energy. I've named the category and then framed the category in a way that people understand it, and event planners want that. I've created the demand. At the end of everything, category designers create demand. They don't steal demand. They don't take other people's demand. They create their own demand because they've created their own category.
And so with Neff creating his own category, that he is he is the master producer, right? Like he's the producer's producer. Like really, yeah. He is that term. Mm-hmm. So when you go there, can you talk tactical inquiry? And I think we'll wrap the podcast on this. For those of you who are looking to get booked to speak, this is how it gets started. Sean, you're a master at it. You've led into it 2 times, and that is inquiring. I remember back when we were pounding the pavement, we had accountability in a mastermind that we were in together on how many inquiry reach outs we were going to do a week. And
I remember that.
It is a numbers game, and it's a relationship game. Yep. And you have to keep in mind that you're in an inbox with 10 other dudes and chicks that are trying to get that same event. How do you stand out, Sean?
You stand out by creating a problem that only you can solve, and then marketing that problem, not the solution. So what happens is, why would an event planner want that specific person? What are they looking for? Now, some event planners are like, do you have a degree? Have you owned a business? Things like that. Like they're looking for something that is their preference. But if they say we need a motivational speaker to talk about leadership or customer service or customer experience, even if someone says, we want customer service, I'm like, how about customer experience? How about creating a world-class experience, not only for those that you serve, but for those that you employ? What if you created a world-class experience that they can't get anywhere else? Like that would be amazing. Like, let's talk category design. Let's talk about hiring me to come in and talk some category design and talk about creating a world-class employment opportunity, which results in a world-class customer service and a world-class customer experience. Because ultimately, the ones who are delivering the service are the employees. And if the employees are disgruntled, if the employees hate their boss, if they don't want to work there, if they're working there because they can't get another job, the likelihood of them giving an A+ service versus just scraping the bottom of the barrel or just doing just enough to pass is going to be a little bit more higher. But if you create that experience, if you create that world-class work environment, the culture has to be there. Once you do that, then the world-class service and the world-class customer experience, again, it's all a byproduct. The key is to figure out what the byproduct is. The byproduct is they want amazing customer service, and I could teach that all day. What I can't teach are people to be good human beings. And so that comes with culture. That comes with them loving their job, loving their boss, loving their coworkers. And so you really have to go in there and focus on that. But they gotta be extraordinary humans, you know? So how do we do that? You got to give them a reason to. You got to give them the desire to, the discipline to. And then once you do that, then the byproduct is the customer service and the customer experience. So find out what the byproduct is and just work yourself backwards.
One of the greatest marketing strategies I've heard, you shared on the call with me, and you just went over it a little bit. I want to dive and give my perspective and then lead out of this episode here. And then for those of you listening, I got about 10 minutes left with Sean. I'm going to record a very, very tactical how to get after some money episode over on the Scale to Sale podcast. So you can go peep the episode in the show notes. I'll put the link in there. I was not going to, but I will. Sean, your process of sending emails and in building relationships has led to you having essentially a vault of event planners that you have built relationships with. And one of the things that you shared with me, which I thought was super, super empowering and really cool to see somebody who stayed committed and stayed the path and watching the tiers of build, right? Which you only get from sweat equity,
right.
You know, and I know your path. I know what you've sacrificed to get to where you are. What would you say here, let me reframe this. If everything fell off tomorrow and you had to create a business, what would everything was done. You had to go create a business like Grant Cardone. You don't need to create a multi-million-dollar business, but you had to create a business. What would your first 3 actions be?
Figure out the problem that I could solve and frame, name, and claim that problem. It's easy. Category design is in every industry. And if you look at AI, if you look at all the new things that are coming around, I mean, the knowledge worker is going to be knocked off. You know, if I want to look at knowledge, I can Google it or I can chat GPT it. So the knowledge worker is going to be knocked off while the practitioner and the one that is actually doing the work, you know, the sound engineers, the podcasters, the speakers, the practitioners, those guys are going to become the new thing. And so whenever we talk about like industries going away or businesses that need to be created, it's designing new categories, designing new ways of doing things, designing more efficient or more not so much in depth, but less complicated, but still gets the job done. And so you have to figure out the problem that you're going to solve, who has that problem, and where they hang out. And so if I can figure out those 3 things, the problem that I solve, who has that problem, and where they hang out, then I've got an audience, I've got a problem, and I've got a solution, and I know exactly how to market it.
Man, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I followed my intuition to reach back out to you. I know all this stuff like you can, I mean, you know, Sean, and this is refreshing the way that you've reframed the entire structure of business, and the approach that you've taken to it has really lit a fire back in my soul. Really grateful for your time here on the Purpose Chasers. Can you share with my audience? I mean, I can share the Success Corps, CORPS.com is Sean's site. Is there anywhere else that people could follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. You can always find me at the Success Core, CORPS.com. All my links are there under the tons of tabs that are there. But look under media appearances tab, and you'll see all of my links to every single social media, website, everything that I'm on.
For anyone who's looking to follow Sean, head over to the Success Corps, thesuccesscorps.com. You can find all of Sean's socials, all of his trainings, a host of, as I shared before, all of the as seen on ShamWows that he has earned, and the clients that he's working with. So grateful to have you on, Sean.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Purpose Chasers podcast. If today's episode hit home, don't just listen, engage. Follow me on Spotify, drop a review, and join the conversation over on YouTube at The Purpose Chasers or on Instagram at Organic Nerd Word. This is more than a podcast, it's a movement. And if you're here, you're already part of it. Remember, no amount of darkness can keep someone who's been called. So keep chasing, keep building, and keep standing in your purpose. I'm Mark Crandall, signing off until next time. Let's get it.